A chance encounter. David had always thought he knew what love looked like. He envisioned a perfect relationship, one built on shared backgrounds, similar upbringings, and the comfortable familiarity of life in their small town. But that all changed the night he met Lisa at the charity gala. The evening was alive with laughter and conversation, the air filled with the clinking of glasses and the soft strains of music. As David navigated through the crowd, he spotted Lisa across the room. She was captivating, her warm brown skin shimmering under the soft lights, and her smile was radiant, infectious even. Something about her drew him in like a moth to a flame. Gathering his courage, David approached her. "Hi, I'm David," he said, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. "Lisa," she replied, her voice smooth like honey, instantly putting him at ease. They started to chat, and David was struck by her intelligence and passion. Lisa spoke with fervor about her work as a community organizer, her dreams of making the world a better place. As they talked, he discovered they shared many interests: a love for nature, a passion for helping others, and an appreciation for good food. The evening slipped away unnoticed as they laughed and shared stories, feeling as if they had known each other for years. When the gala came to an end, David felt an unexpected pang of sadness. He didn't want the night to be over. Gathering his courage again, he asked, "Would you like to have dinner with me sometime?" Lisa hesitated. "I'd love to, but are you sure? People might talk. It might not be easy to be with a black woman who has 3 kids." David took her hand gently, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. "I know it might be challenging, but I don't care what anyone thinks. I want to get to know you better." Her smile returned, brighter than before. "In that case, I'd love to have dinner with you." As they exchanged numbers, both felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. They knew their connection was strong, but they were also aware of the challenges they would face. The family gathering. The summer sun bathed the backyard in a warm glow, but David felt a chill in the air as he stood at the entrance, holding Lisa's hand tightly. The familiar sights and sounds of his family's annual barbecue should have brought him comfort, but today felt different. Today, he was introducing Lisa and her 3 children, Jasmine, Malik, and little Ella, to a family that might not fully accept them. As they stepped into the bustling backyard, filled with laughter and the scent of grilled meats, David's heart raced. His mother, Eleanor, was busy arranging plates at the picnic table, while his father, George, manned the grill with his usual pride. David took a deep breath, reminding himself that love was worth the risk. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Lisa and her wonderful children," David announced, his voice slightly shaky. The moment he spoke, a hush fell over the gathering, and all eyes turned to them. Eleanor's gaze flicked from Lisa to the kids, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. "Welcome," she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The tension was palpable. Tom, ever the easygoing friend, stepped forward, his warm grin breaking the ice. "It's great to finally meet you all." David hasn't stopped raving about Lisa since he met her. He reached out and shook Lisa's hand firmly, a gesture of solidarity that David appreciated. "Thank you, it's nice to be here," Lisa replied, her voice steady despite the scrutiny. She stood tall, her head held high, while Jasmine, the eldest, leaned into her mother's side, taking in the mixed reactions around them. As the introductions continued, David noticed some of his relatives subtly stepping back, avoiding eye contact. His Aunt Martha whispered something to his Uncle Frank, who frowned deeply in response. But there were also encouraging gestures. Sarah, his cousin, knelt down to Ella's level, offering her a cookie with a kind smile. "Mom, I don't think everyone wants us here," Jasmine whispered to Lisa, her eyes wide as she observed the discomfort in the air. "It's okay, sweetie," Lisa replied, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Change takes time. We're here because David loves us, and that's what matters." David overheard their exchange and felt a surge of love mixed with sadness. He wished his family could see how incredible Lisa and her children were. As the afternoon wore on, he tried to engage everyone in conversation, guiding them toward topics that highlighted Lisa's strengths and passions. "So, Lisa, what do you do for a living?" George asked, his voice gruff. It was a question that felt like a challenge, an opportunity for Lisa to prove herself. "I run a small bakery downtown," Lisa replied confidently. "It's been in my family for generations. We focus on community events and support local charities." George nodded slowly, his expression unreadable, while David felt a mix of hope and anxiety. He could see the way Lisa's passion for her work illuminated her face, and he wished his father would see that too. As the barbecue progressed, David noticed how some relatives maintained their distance, while others, like Tom and Sarah, actively engaged with Lisa and the kids. They asked about their interests, their favorite activities, and slowly the kids began to warm up. Malik, shy but curious, found common ground with Tom over a shared love of video games, while Ella clung to her mother's skirt, watching everything with wide, innocent eyes. David's heart swelled with pride as he watched Lisa navigate the uncomfortable dynamics with grace. She handled the tension like a seasoned diplomat, offering smiles and warm responses while staying true to herself. He felt a profound respect for her strength and resilience, qualities that had drawn him to her in the first place. But despite the positive moments, David could sense Jasmine's unease. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, he gathered his family around for a group photo. He wanted a memory of this day, a moment when they took a step forward together. "Come on, everyone, let's take a picture," he called out, holding up his phone. As they posed together, David put his arm around Lisa, and she instinctively pulled Jasmine closer to her side. The click of the camera felt like a hopeful snapshot of a new beginning. But afterward, as they walked back to the food table, David overheard a hushed conversation between Aunt Martha and Uncle Frank. "David deserves better. This isn't what we raised him for," Martha whispered, her voice dripping with disdain. David's heart sank as he processed her words, a painful reminder of the prejudices he was determined to challenge. "Let's not judge before we know them," Uncle Frank replied, though his tone was less than encouraging. David felt the weight of their disapproval settle on his shoulders, but he refused to let it crush his spirit. Later that evening, as the barbecue wound down and guests began to leave, David pulled Lisa aside. "I'm sorry about the way some of my family treated you," he said, his voice low. "I wish they could see how amazing you are." Lisa smiled softly, squeezing his hand. "I'm used to it, David. Change is never easy, but it's worth fighting for. We'll show them that love knows no boundaries." As they stood together, watching the last of the daylight fade, David felt a surge of determination. He knew their journey would be filled with challenges, but with Lisa by his side, he believed they could overcome anything. He couldn't predict how his family would react in the long run, but one thing was clear. He was ready to face the world with Lisa and her children, proving that love truly conquers all trials and triumphs. As the leaves began to fall and the air turned crisp with the onset of autumn, David and Lisa settled into a rhythm that felt both exciting and challenging. Their love had blossomed, but the realities of blending two families and navigating societal perceptions loomed large. They faced each day with a mix of joy and uncertainty, determined to forge a new life together. David cherished his moments with Lisa and her 3 children. Each weekend became an adventure filled with laughter and discovery. They often visited the local farmers market, where Lisa would select fresh produce, teaching the kids about healthy eating, while David marveled at the vibrant colors of the fruits and vegetables. It was a joyful chaos. Ella, at 5, was fascinated by the pumpkins, while Malik, at 10, eagerly absorbed knowledge about different herbs and spices. Yet, alongside these joyful moments were the unspoken challenges. At times, David found himself frustrated by the weight of societal expectations and the disapproval lingering from his family. It was especially pronounced during a family gathering at Thanksgiving. The family's dining table, usually a warm space filled with laughter and stories, felt tense this year. "Everyone, can we take a moment to say what we're thankful for?" Eleanor suggested, her voice barely masking her discomfort. David felt a lump in his throat as he glanced at Lisa and her kids, seated at the table but clearly feeling the scrutiny from some relatives. "Lisa, would you like to start?" Eleanor prompted, her eyes flickering nervously. Taking a deep breath, Lisa smiled warmly. "I'm thankful for my children and the opportunities we have to learn and grow together. I'm also grateful for the love and acceptance I've found in my life, especially from David." David's heart swelled with pride, but the response from some relatives was a mixture of silence and murmurs. He knew they were struggling to accept her and her children fully. When it was his turn, he spoke from the heart. "I'm thankful for love, for the family I've built with Lisa and her kids, and for the strength we share." His words hung in the air, and the tension seemed to shift slightly. Some family members nodded, while others looked away, their discomfort palpable. After dinner, David took Lisa outside for a breath of fresh air. The cool evening air filled his lungs, and he looked at her with concern. "I'm sorry about how my family reacted. I wish they could see how wonderful you and the kids are." Lisa shook her head, her eyes sparkling under the dim light. "You can't control how they feel, David. What matters is how we feel about each other. We'll keep proving them wrong, together." That evening marked a turning point. David realized that while their love was strong, the path ahead would require perseverance and resilience. As the winter holidays approached, David and Lisa decided to create new traditions together. They embraced the spirit of the season, filling their home with warmth, laughter, and joy. David decorated the house, while Lisa baked cookies with the kids, their kitchen filled with the aroma of vanilla and cinnamon. One evening, as snow began to fall outside, David gathered the kids around to read holiday stories. Ella's eyes widened with excitement as David animatedly told tales of winter magic, and Malik sat rapt, asking questions that brought forth laughter. "Can we make our own holiday traditions?" Jasmine asked, her eyes bright with hope. "Like a family movie night, or making gingerbread houses?" "Absolutely," David replied, his heart swelling with joy. "Let's make this a holiday to remember." They spent the following weekends creating a gingerbread village, complete with candy decorations. Each moment was filled with joy, laughter, and the feeling of togetherness that David had always longed for. But just as he felt things were settling into place, another challenge arose. David's family decided to host a New Year's Eve party, and the invitation came with an unspoken expectation. Lisa and her children would not be welcome. David felt the familiar knot in his stomach as he read the email. How could they treat her this way after all they had been through? That evening, he sat with Lisa on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder. "What's wrong?" she asked, noticing the tension in his posture. "Mom invited us to the New Year's party, but they didn't mention you or the kids. It's as if they expect me to come alone." His frustration boiled beneath the surface. Lisa looked at him, her expression a mix of sadness and understanding. "David, you know I won't put you in a position where you have to choose. If they can't accept me, then maybe it's best we don't go. But I want to be with you. You're my family," he insisted, his voice rising slightly. "Then let's do something special just for us," she suggested, her eyes brightening. "We can create our own celebration, one that reflects who we are as a family." David felt a sense of relief wash over him. "You're right. Let's have a cozy night at home, just us. We'll make it unforgettable." They spent the next few days planning their own New Year's celebration. Together, they decorated the living room with colorful streamers and fairy lights. Lisa baked a batch of her famous chocolate chip cookies, and the kids helped prepare a feast, each contributing their favorite dishes. As the clock neared midnight, they gathered together, a sense of excitement bubbling in the air. David poured sparkling juice into glasses for everyone, raising his glass in a toast. To new beginnings and the love we share. Cheers. The kids echoed, their faces lit up with joy. When the clock struck midnight, they erupted in cheers, embracing one another, their laughter ringing out into the night. David looked around at the faces he loved most and realized that this was his true family, one built on love, acceptance, and resilience. They danced in the living room, creating memories that would last a lifetime. With each twirl and laugh, David felt a renewed sense of hope. They were building a life together that was beautiful in its authenticity, and with Lisa by his side, he knew they could face anything. Building bridges. As winter settled in, casting a frosty glow over the town, David and Lisa embraced their newfound traditions, solidifying their family bonds while continuing to navigate the complexities of their blended lives. The warmth of their home contrasted with the chill outside, and David often found himself reflecting on how far they had come. The new year had marked a turning point. Their intimate celebration had been filled with laughter, joy, and a reaffirmation of their commitment to one another. However, David was acutely aware that while they had created a nurturing environment for Lisa and her children, the journey toward acceptance with his own family was far from over. One evening, as snowflakes danced outside the window, David gathered the kids around for their weekly family meeting. "How about we plan something special for Valentine's Day?" he suggested, excitement sparking in his eyes. "I want to show Lisa how much we appreciate her." Ella's eyes widened with enthusiasm. "Can we make her a big card?" she asked, bouncing in her seat. "Great idea," David replied, feeling his heart swell at their eagerness to express their love for Lisa. "We can decorate it with drawings and messages from each of you," Malik chimed in. "And maybe we can cook her favorite dinner." "That's perfect," Lisa added, her voice warm and encouraging. "What about those stuffed peppers I love?" The planning took on a life of its own, with each child contributing ideas. As they discussed decorations, food, and surprises, David couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was the kind of family he had always wanted, a family that celebrated one another and embraced the beauty of their differences. However, in the back of David's mind lingered the unease of how his family would react when they discovered their plans. He had no doubt that some relatives would be less than pleased with their growing bond, but he was determined to stand firm. Lisa deserved to be celebrated, not just on Valentine's Day, but every day. As the holiday approached, David received an unexpected invitation from his parents. They wanted him to join them for dinner, a private affair to discuss family matters. He sensed the tension in the air as he read the email, and he knew the subject of his relationship with Lisa would inevitably come up. On the evening of the dinner, David arrived at his parents' home, a mix of anticipation and anxiety churning in his stomach. He was greeted by Eleanor, who wore a strained smile. "It's good to see you, David," she said, but her eyes betrayed her apprehension. "Thanks for having me," he replied, trying to keep his tone light as he stepped into the living room. George was already seated at the dining table, his expression serious. After they exchanged pleasantries, Eleanor served a hearty meal, and they began to eat in relative silence. David could feel the tension building, like a storm cloud looming overhead. Finally, after several minutes, George cleared his throat. "David, we need to talk," he said, his voice firm. "Your mother and I have been concerned about your relationship with Lisa." David felt his heart race, but he steeled himself. "What about it?" he asked, keeping his tone steady. "We worry that this is not what's best for you," Eleanor chimed in, her voice trembling slightly. "You have a good future ahead of you, and we fear you're jeopardizing that by pursuing a relationship with a woman who has 3 children. David took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their disapproval. "Mom, I love Lisa. She and her kids are part of my life now, and I want you to accept that." "David, you don't know what you're getting into," George replied, his brow furrowed. "Raising someone else's children isn't easy. You have to think about your future." "That's exactly what I'm doing," David shot back, unable to contain his frustration. I'm building a future with Lisa and her children. They'd bring so much joy into my life, and I can't let your fears dictate my happiness. Eleanor looked stricken, and George's face flushed with anger. This isn't just about you, son. It's about family reputation and how others perceive us. David felt his anger boil over. You're worried about reputation. What about love? What about happiness? You should care more about who I am becoming instead of what others think. The conversation spiraled into an intense exchange, with David defending his love for Lisa while his parents clung to their fears. He knew that the evening was not going the way he had hoped, but he was determined to stand his ground. Finally, after a heated discussion, David stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need some air, he said, storming outside into the cold night. The fresh air hit him like a wave, and he inhaled deeply, trying to calm the storm inside. As he paced the driveway, his thoughts drifted to Lisa. He could picture her now, surrounded by their children, laughing and creating new memories. It was this image that fueled his determination to fight for their love, no matter the cost. After a few moments, he felt his phone buzz in his pocket. It was a text from Lisa, and his heart warmed as he read her words. Thinking of you. I love you. We're in this together. That simple message grounded him, reminding him of the love they had built. He texted back, telling her he'd be home soon and that they'd talk about their plans for Valentine's Day. When he returned to his parents' house, the atmosphere felt heavy, but David knew he had to be honest about how he felt. I love Lisa and her kids, he said firmly, his voice steady. I want you to meet them, to understand who they are, not just who you think they are. This is my life, and I want you to be part of it. George looked at him, his expression softening slightly. We just want what's best for you, David. And I believe this is what's best for me, David replied. I hope you'll eventually come to see that. As David left, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to build bridges between his two families. He knew it wouldn't happen overnight, but with patience and love, he believed change was possible. As Valentine's Day approached, David and the kids poured their hearts into planning the perfect surprise for Lisa. They decorated the house with homemade decorations, crafting paper hearts and strings of twinkling lights. Each child was given a role. Ella was in charge of the card, Malik handled the dinner preparations, and Jasmine took on the decorations. On the evening of the celebration, David felt a rush of excitement as he set the table. They had prepared a feast of stuffed peppers, garlic bread, and a rich chocolate cake for dessert. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, and he couldn't wait to see Lisa's reaction. When Lisa arrived, her eyes lit up with surprise. Wow, what's all this? She exclaimed, taking in the beautiful setup. Happy Valentine's Day. The kids shouted in unison, and David stepped forward, holding the big card they had made. Lisa's eyes welled with tears as she opened the card, reading each heartfelt message from the kids. This is so beautiful. Thank you all so much, she said, her voice thick with emotion. As they sat down to eat, David couldn't help but admire the happiness radiating from Lisa. She looked radiant, her laughter infectious as they shared stories and enjoyed their meal. For that moment, everything felt perfect. After dinner, David cleared his throat, raising his glass. To Lisa, he said, for being the amazing woman and mother that you are. We are so grateful to have you in our lives. To Lisa, the kids echoed, and they clinked their glasses together, celebrating the love they had cultivated. As the evening drew to a close, they gathered in the living room for a movie marathon. Snuggled together on the couch under a pile of blankets, David looked around at the scene. Lisa laughing with Ella, Malik enthusiastically discussing their movie choices, and he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. In that moment, he understood that family wasn't defined by traditional norms or societal expectations. Family was about love, support, and acceptance. He was committed to building this family, brick by brick, even if it meant facing adversity. That night, as they watched the credits roll on their final movie, David realized that love was a journey, one filled with challenges, joys, and moments of connection. And together, with Lisa and the kids, he was ready to embrace it all. The challenge of acceptance. As spring began to thaw the winter's chill, David and Lisa found themselves blossoming as a family. The brighter days brought new hope and fresh challenges, but their bond only grew stronger. They embraced the change in seasons as an opportunity to deepen their connection, but in the back of David's mind lingered the unresolved tension with his family. In the weeks following Valentine's Day, Lisa's influence in David's life became more evident. They tackled everyday tasks together: grocery shopping, school projects, and planning weekend adventures. David reveled in the chaos that came with blending their lives. Little Ella's infectious laughter, Malik's insightful questions, and Jasmine's artistic flair enriched his world in ways he had never anticipated. But as the days turned longer and the flowers began to bloom, David felt a tugging at his heart regarding his family. He understood that while he had chosen this path, Lisa and her children deserved to be acknowledged and accepted by his loved ones. Determined to pave the way for that acceptance, he devised a plan to invite his parents over for a family dinner that included Lisa and the kids. On a sunny Saturday morning, David prepared the invitation, his stomach a knot of anxiety. He called Eleanor, trying to sound casual. "Hey, Mom. I was thinking it would be nice to have you and Dad over for dinner this week. I want you to get to know Lisa and the kids better." "David." Eleanor's voice was cautious. "You know it's not easy for us. It's still a lot to process." "I understand," David replied, his resolve firm. "But I love her, and I want you both to see how wonderful she is. Please just give it a chance." After a long pause, Eleanor finally agreed. "All right, we'll come over, but you know this will be challenging for us." "I know," David said, feeling a surge of hope. "Thank you." As the dinner day approached, the excitement in David's home was palpable. He and Lisa worked together to prepare a meal that reflected their shared tastes. They decided on a fusion of their culinary backgrounds, a mix of traditional dishes from both their heritages. Jasmine helped with the decorations, while Malik took charge of setting the table, making sure everything was just right. The day of the dinner arrived, and David felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He wanted everything to go smoothly, to showcase the love and happiness he had found with Lisa and her children. As they set the table, he caught Lisa's eye. She smiled warmly, and he felt a sense of reassurance wash over him. "Just be yourself," she said softly. "No matter what happens, we're in this together." When Eleanor and George arrived, David opened the door, his heart racing. He could see the apprehension in their faces, but he held on to the hope that they would embrace this opportunity. "Welcome," David greeted them, gesturing for them to enter. "We've made dinner together. I hope you enjoy it." Eleanor hesitated, looking around the room. "It smells lovely," she said, her voice strained. As they sat down, David could feel the tension rising again. He had hoped for a relaxed atmosphere, but he could sense that his parents were on edge. Lisa, ever poised, engaged them in conversation, asking about their interests and sharing stories about her kids. "So, how are Jasmine and Malik doing in school?" Eleanor asked, her voice softer than before. "They're doing great. Jasmine's working on a project about the solar system, and Malik is really into science. He wants to be an astronaut," Lisa responded, her eyes lighting up with pride. "That's wonderful," Eleanor replied, her smile genuine for a brief moment. David noted the small shift in their dynamics, feeling a flicker of hope. As the meal progressed, however, it became apparent that not everyone was ready to embrace change. George's demeanor remained distant, and he directed comments toward David that felt loaded with judgment. "I hope you're prepared for the challenges of raising someone else's children," he said, his tone laced with skepticism. David took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "They're wonderful kids, Dad. They bring so much joy into my life. I'm ready for any challenges we might face." "Are you really?" George replied, his voice gruff. "It's a big responsibility, and you're still young." Before David could respond, Malik piped up. "I like David. He plays video games with me and helps me with my homework." "See," David said, feeling the surge of pride in Malik's words. "I'm committed to being a good father figure." Eleanor glanced at George, and for a moment, David thought he saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "It sounds like you're both doing your best," she finally said, her tone softening. After dinner, David suggested they all share their favorite stories. "How about we each tell a memorable story from our childhood?" he proposed, hoping to bridge the gap further. As stories flowed, laughter began to replace the initial tension. David shared a funny anecdote about getting stuck in a tree while trying to impress a girl, and everyone chuckled. Lisa recounted a heartwarming story from her childhood, highlighting the values of resilience and community that shaped her life. Then it was Jasmine's turn. "When I was little, I painted a picture for my mom, but I accidentally spilled paint all over the carpet," she said, her eyes wide with nostalgia. "I thought I was going to get in trouble, but instead, she helped me clean it up and we laughed about it together." Eleanor smiled, her eyes twinkling with warmth as she listened to the kids. "That sounds like something I would have done with David," she said, glancing at him with a newfound softness. As the evening drew to a close, David felt a sense of accomplishment. They had faced a challenging situation together, and while there was still work to be done, he saw glimmers of hope. After George and Eleanor left, David turned to Lisa, who was tidying up the kitchen. "I think it went well," he said, feeling buoyant. "It did," Lisa replied, her smile radiant. "You handled it beautifully." "Thank you for being so patient," David said, pulling her into a hug. "I know it was tough, but I really feel like we're making progress." Lisa nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Change takes time, but I believe in us. We'll keep pushing forward." As the weeks rolled on, David took Lisa and the kids on weekend adventures to enjoy the spring weather. They visited local parks, explored nature trails, and even tried their hand at gardening. Each outing deepened their connection, and the kids thrived under Lisa's nurturing guidance. But while their little family flourished, David remained vigilant about the upcoming family reunion in the summer, a gathering that would bring together relatives from near and far. The anxiety about how his family would react to Lisa and the kids weighed heavily on him. One afternoon, he sat with Lisa on the porch, watching the kids play in the yard. "I'm nervous about the family reunion," he confessed. "What if they can't accept us?" Lisa turned to him, her expression resolute. "No matter what happens, we'll face it together. Just remember that our love is what matters most." Her words reassured him, but the thought of potential conflict lingered. He decided to call his parents to invite them to the reunion, hoping it would be a chance for healing. As he dialed Eleanor's number, his heart raced. "Hi, Mom. I wanted to talk about the reunion coming up. It would mean a lot to me if you and Dad came. Lisa and the kids will be there too." Eleanor hesitated. "David, I don't know if that's a good idea. It's a big family gathering, and it might be uncomfortable." "I understand that," he said, his voice steady. "But this is important to me. I want you to get to know Lisa and her kids. We're a family now, and I want everyone to see that." After a long pause, Eleanor finally agreed. "All right, we'll come, but I can't promise it'll be easy." "I appreciate it, Mom," David replied, feeling a flicker of hope. "I'll make sure it's a day to remember." As he hung up the phone, he felt a renewed sense of determination. The road ahead would be challenging, but with Lisa and the kids by his side, he was ready to confront the obstacles that lay ahead. Together, they would forge a path of acceptance, love, and understanding. A new beginning. The summer sun shone brightly on the day of the family reunion, casting a warm glow over the park where the event was held. David felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as he set up their picnic area. Lisa, along with Jasmine, Malik, and little Ella, helped him arrange the food and decorations. The park buzzed with laughter and chatter as family members began to arrive, each one carrying a different energy. "Are you ready for this?" Lisa asked, sensing David's nerves as she placed a vibrant bouquet of flowers at the center of the picnic table. "Ready as I'll ever be," David replied, taking a deep breath. "I just hope everything goes smoothly. I want this to be a day of celebration, not tension." Lisa squeezed his hand reassuringly. "No matter what happens, we're a team. We'll handle it together." As the afternoon progressed, family members began to gather, bringing with them a mix of enthusiasm and apprehension. David's heart raced as he watched familiar faces approach, but he also felt the weight of judgment lingering in the air. Would they embrace Lisa and her kids, or would the skepticism from before rear its ugly head? Eleanor and George arrived, their expressions neutral as they greeted David. "Hey, son," George said, his voice gruff. "We're here." "Thanks for coming, Dad," David replied, forcing a smile. He glanced toward Lisa and the kids, who were busy engaging with some of David's cousins, sharing laughter and stories. They seemed to be bonding, and for a moment, hope surged in his chest. As David led his parents over to the picnic area, he could feel the tension thickening. The contrast between the joyful atmosphere and the unease he sensed from his parents was palpable. "Everyone, I want you to meet Lisa and her kids," David announced, his voice ringing out with determination. "This is Lisa, and these are Jasmine, Malik, and Ella." "Hi," the kids chimed in unison, their voices bright and cheerful. Eleanor and George exchanged glances but maintained polite smiles. "Nice to meet you all," Eleanor said, her voice steady but lacking warmth. David noticed the mixed reactions from his relatives. Some offered friendly greetings, while others remained distant, their expressions skeptical. His heart sank, but he pushed through, introducing Lisa to his cousins and aunts, hoping they would see the wonderful woman he loved. As the afternoon wore on, the picnic became more lively. Lisa engaged in conversations about her baking, sharing stories about her community initiatives, and slowly, the atmosphere began to shift. Families shared laughter over shared memories, and David felt a sense of camaraderie starting to emerge. But just when things seemed to be turning a corner, he overheard a whispered comment from one of his aunts. "I still don't understand what David sees in her," she muttered to another relative, casting a glance at Lisa. David's heart dropped. It stung to hear that judgment, especially when he could see how hard Lisa was trying to connect. He took a deep breath, determined to stand up for her. He approached his aunt, ready to confront the negativity head-on. "Aunt Martha," he said, his voice steady but firm, "I want you to understand that Lisa is a remarkable person. She's loving, strong, and she has brought so much joy into my life. I wish you could see that instead of focusing on your preconceived notions." Martha looked taken aback, her expression shifting as she registered the intensity of David's words. "I didn't mean to offend, David. I worry about you." "I appreciate your concern," David replied, his tone softening. "But I'm happier than I've ever been. Lisa and her kids are my family now, and I want you to embrace that." With that, David walked away, returning to Lisa and the children, who were in the midst of a lively game of tag with some cousins. He felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had stood up for the love he believed in, even in the face of skepticism. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, David gathered everyone for a group photo. "Let's capture this moment together," he called out, excitement lacing his voice. Everyone quickly arranged themselves, the mood shifting into one of celebration. As they posed, David pulled Lisa closer, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. The kids squeezed in beside them, grinning widely. "Say family," David shouted, and a chorus of voices echoed, filling the air with joy. After the photo, they settled down for dessert, and David noticed how Lisa was now engaging with Eleanor, who had warmed up a bit. They were discussing baking techniques, and David felt a swell of gratitude. Maybe there was hope for acceptance after all. "I think your chocolate cake recipe is amazing," Eleanor said, her tone genuinely appreciative. "I'd love to try making it sometime." "That would be wonderful. I'd be happy to share my secrets," Lisa replied, her smile radiant. As the day came to a close, David reflected on how far they had come. Despite the initial tension, the reunion had turned into a memorable occasion, filled with laughter, connection, and love. The barriers that had seemed so daunting were beginning to crumble. When it was finally time to leave, David felt a wave of warmth wash over him as he hugged Lisa tightly. "Thank you for being so incredible today," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you." Lisa smiled, her eyes glistening. "We did this together. I'm proud of how far we've come." As they packed up their things, David caught a glimpse of his parents talking with some of his relatives, their expressions more open and relaxed. It was a small step, but a step nonetheless. Later that night, as they settled in at home, David looked at Lisa and the kids who were sprawled on the couch, their laughter echoing through the room. He felt a profound sense of belonging wash over him. "I love our family," he said softly, watching as Ella leaned against Lisa, who was reading her a bedtime story. "Me too," Lisa replied, glancing up at David with warmth in her eyes. "This is just the beginning." David nodded, feeling an unshakable sense of hope. They had faced challenges, but they had also forged connections, built a new family, and created a love that defied all expectations. Together, they would continue to navigate life's complexities, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth and understanding. As the evening wound down and the kids headed to bed, David and Lisa took a moment to reflect on the day. "You were amazing today," David said, wrapping his arms around her. "I'm so grateful for you." Lisa leaned in closer, resting her head against his shoulder. "And I'm grateful for you. We're creating something beautiful here, David. I believe in us." As they watched the stars twinkle outside their window, David felt a renewed sense of determination. The road ahead might still be rocky, but with love, patience, and resilience, they would navigate it together. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united as one family, ready to embrace a future filled with possibility. Embracing the future. As summer transitioned into fall, the world outside transformed into a tapestry of vibrant colors. The crisp air carried the scent of changing leaves, and David and Lisa found themselves reveling in the beauty of the season. Their lives, once fraught with uncertainty, now felt rich with possibility. The family had settled into a comfortable routine, marked by the laughter of children and the warmth of shared experiences. David had noticed how the bond between Lisa and his family was strengthening, particularly after the successful reunion. Eleanor and George had made a concerted effort to engage with Lisa and her kids, even attending a few community events together. One Saturday afternoon, David and Lisa took the kids on a scenic hike through the nearby woods, their spirits buoyed by the adventure. The sun filtered through the trees, creating dappled patterns on the forest floor. As they climbed higher, the laughter of Ella and Malik echoed through the trees, filling David's heart with joy. "Can we race to that big oak tree?" Ella asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Okay, but no cheating," Malik replied, feigning seriousness. As they took off, David chuckled, watching them sprint ahead. "They're going to tire themselves out," he said to Lisa, who smiled back, her expression warm and content. "They'll sleep well tonight," she replied, linking her arm with his as they strolled leisurely, enjoying the moment. "Thank you for being such an incredible partner," David said, his voice sincere. "I don't know how I'd manage all this without you." Lisa looked up at him, her eyes filled with affection. "We make a great team, David. I wouldn't want it any other way." As they reached the oak tree, David's heart swelled with pride watching the kids climb its sturdy branches, giggling as they played. He couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come together. The love he shared with Lisa had transformed his life in ways he had never imagined. Later that evening, as they sat around a cozy bonfire in the backyard, roasting marshmallows. David reflected on their journey. The flickering flames illuminated the faces of the people he loved most. He took a deep breath, feeling gratitude wash over him. "Let's make a toast," he exclaimed, raising his cup filled with hot chocolate. "To family, chosen and otherwise. To love, laughter, and the adventures yet to come. To family." The kids shouted, their voices ringing with enthusiasm. As they clinked their cups together, David felt a warmth spreading through his heart. He had never felt more alive, more complete. However, even amidst this newfound harmony, a shadow loomed. The upcoming school year brought with it the reality of school activities, parent-teacher meetings, and the potential for judgment from other parents. David knew that while his family was embracing Lisa and the kids, the wider community might not be as accepting. One afternoon, he received an email from the school about an upcoming open house. Parents were encouraged to attend, and David felt a twinge of anxiety. What would others think when they saw him walking in with Lisa and her children? Would they judge them? Would they treat them differently because of their blended family? David decided to bring it up during dinner that night. "Hey, everyone, I got an email from the school about the open house next week," he said, trying to gauge the kids' reactions. "Are you going to go?" Malik asked, his face lighting up with curiosity. "I was thinking we could all go together. Me, Lisa, and you kids," David replied, watching for their responses. "I want to show off my new art project," Jasmine exclaimed, her excitement palpable. "I'm nervous," Ella admitted, her small voice filled with apprehension. "What if the other kids don't like me?" David's heart sank at her words. "It's okay to be nervous, Ella. But remember, you're amazing just as you are. And we'll all be there together." "Yeah," Malik chimed in. "We'll stick together like a team." Lisa smiled encouragingly at Ella. "We're proud of you, no matter what. Just be yourself, and everything will be fine." As the days leading up to the open house passed, David's anxiety began to ebb, replaced by the strength he drew from his family's unity. They practiced what they would say, reinforcing their support for one another. On the day of the open house, David felt a mix of excitement and dread as they arrived at the school. The hallways buzzed with chatter, parents mingling while children showcased their projects. David took a deep breath, squeezing Lisa's hand as they stepped inside. "Remember, we're in this together," Lisa whispered, her voice steadying him. As they navigated through the crowd, David was surprised to find many friendly faces. Some of his relatives were there, including Sarah, who waved enthusiastically. "Hey, David, I'm so glad to see you all," she exclaimed, kneeling to chat with Ella. David felt a surge of relief. Maybe this wouldn't be as daunting as he had feared. The children proudly showcased their projects. Jasmine's artwork was met with admiration, and Malik received compliments on his science display. But as they moved from room to room, David felt a familiar weight in the air. A group of parents whispered as they approached, their expressions a mixture of surprise and disbelief. David's heart sank as he overheard snippets of conversation. "Is that the new family?" One parent murmured. "I heard they don't belong here." David took a deep breath, his protective instincts kicking in. He glanced at Lisa, who stood tall, her expression unwavering. He could see the determination in her eyes, and it bolstered his resolve. "Let's go say hi," he suggested, walking toward the group. As they approached, one of the parents turned to them, eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, I didn't realize you were here," she said, her tone cautious. "Yes, we're here," David replied, his voice steady. "I'm David, and this is Lisa and her kids. We're part of this community, just like everyone else." The other parents exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from disbelief to tentative acceptance. Lisa stepped forward, her voice warm. "We're excited to be part of the school and the community. I hope we can all get to know each other better." The tension in the air began to dissipate as other parents engaged them in conversation, sharing stories about school events and activities. David felt a sense of camaraderie growing, and for the first time, he could see the possibilities of acceptance blossoming. Later, as they returned home, David felt a wave of relief wash over him. "I can't believe how well that went," he said, grinning at Lisa and the kids. "You were amazing, Dad." Malik cheered, his eyes sparkling with pride. "Yeah, you showed them," Jasmine added, her voice filled with excitement. Lisa smiled, leaning into David. "We did it together. That's what family is all about." That night, as they gathered for a family meeting, David felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "I'm so proud of each of you. Today was a big step for us, and I believe it's just the beginning of many more." "Yeah, and we'll keep growing and learning together," Ella exclaimed, her eyes wide with hope. As they settled in for the evening, David felt the warmth of their love enveloping him. They had faced challenges, but each moment of courage brought them closer together. He realized that their journey was not just about acceptance, but also about embracing the beauty of their unique family. With Lisa by his side and the kids nestled close, David knew that they could tackle anything life threw their way. Together, they would continue to forge their path, proving that love knows no boundaries and that family is defined by the heart, not by societal expectations. And so, under the soft glow of the evening lights, David felt ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them, filled with hope for a future that was bright and beautiful. New horizons. As the leaves began to change color and fall gently to the ground, David and Lisa found themselves embracing not just the beauty of the season, but also the excitement of new beginnings. The school year was in full swing, and the family had settled into a rhythm that felt both comfortable and invigorating. The previous months had been transformative, not only for their little family, but also in how their community began to view them. David felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose as he watched Lisa thrive in her role as both a partner and a mother. She had become an integral part of the school community, volunteering for events and fostering relationships with other parents. One crisp Saturday morning, Lisa decided to organize a fall festival at the local community center. "We can invite everyone. Friends, family, and even the kids' classmates," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It'll be a great way to celebrate the season and strengthen connections." David's heart swelled with pride as he watched her passion unfold. "That sounds amazing. What do you need from me?" "We'll need help with decorations, food, and games. And of course, we'll want to make it fun for the kids," Lisa replied, already jotting down a list. He nodded, appreciating her perspective. "You're right. I just want our kids to feel like they belong, you know." "They will," Lisa reassured him. "As long as we keep supporting each other and showing up for them, they'll feel that love. We're their safe haven." David took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I'm so grateful to have you by my side. You've made all the difference." "I feel the same way," Lisa replied, leaning into him. "Together, we're creating a legacy of love and acceptance for our family. And that's something no one can take away." As they sat together, enveloped in the calm of the evening, David realized that this journey was about more than just seeking acceptance from others. It was about creating a strong foundation for their family, one built on love, respect, and understanding. With Lisa, he felt ready to embrace the challenges ahead. Together, they would continue to nurture their love and show the world that family transcends boundaries. They were ready for whatever the future held, determined to face it hand in hand, heart to heart. The following weeks were filled with preparations. The kids jumped in wholeheartedly, excitedly brainstorming ideas for games and activities. Jasmine wanted to create a pumpkin painting station. Malik suggested a scavenger hunt, and Ella insisted on having a baking corner where everyone could decorate cookies. As the festival day approached, David felt a surge of anxiety mixed with excitement. He knew how important this event was for Lisa and the kids, but he also recognized that it would serve as another opportunity for their community to observe their family dynamic. Would they accept them wholeheartedly this time? On the morning of the festival, the community center buzzed with activity. David and Lisa arrived early to set up, their arms loaded with decorations, tables, and supplies. The vibrant colors of autumn adorned the space. Orange and yellow leaves hung from the ceilings, and hay bales lined the entryway, creating a festive atmosphere. As families began to trickle in, David felt the familiar flutter of nerves. But as he watched Lisa warmly greet guests and introduce them to her children, he felt a sense of pride swelling within him. They were building something beautiful together. "Hey, look, it's the family that put this all together," a voice called out. David turned to see Sarah and some of his other cousins approaching with their families. "Hey, everyone," David waved, feeling a rush of relief at their friendly presence. "We're glad you could make it." The day unfolded with laughter, joy, and a sense of community. Kids painted pumpkins, raced in sack races, and decorated cookies. David joined in the fun, guiding the scavenger hunt while Lisa managed the baking corner, ensuring everyone had enough frosting and sprinkles for their creations. As the afternoon progressed, David felt the warmth of connection blossoming around him. He watched as Lisa engaged effortlessly with other parents, sharing stories, laughter, and ideas. He saw how they admired her efforts, her charisma drawing them in like moths to a flame. In a quieter moment, David stepped away to catch his breath. As he leaned against a wall, he caught sight of Lisa helping Ella with her cookie decoration, and a wave of gratitude washed over him. This was their life, messy, beautiful, and filled with love. Just then, a familiar face approached. It was one of the parents from the school, a woman named Carol who had been initially hesitant about accepting David's family. "Hi, David. I just wanted to say how amazing this festival is. Lisa has really brought everyone together," she said, her voice genuine. "Thank you. We're glad you could come," David replied, surprised at her warmth. "I've seen how hard she's worked, and it's truly inspiring. I hope we can all get to know each other better," Carol added, her smile wide. David felt a spark of hope. That would be wonderful. We're all in this together, after all. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the festivities, David gathered everyone for a group photo. "All right, everyone, gather around for a picture to remember this day." The laughter and chatter filled the air as families came together, smiles brightening their faces. David looked around at the scene. Lisa radiating joy, the kids bursting with energy, and the community finally beginning to embrace their family. Just before the photo was taken, Lisa turned to David, her eyes sparkling with affection. "I'm so grateful for you, David. We've come so far." He smiled back, his heart swelling with pride. "We've built something beautiful, and I'm excited for what's next." As the festival wrapped up, David and Lisa began to clean up, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over them. Families were leaving with bags full of baked goods and painted pumpkins, their hearts light and joyful. "Today was incredible," Lisa said, beaming as they stacked tables. "I can't believe how many people came together. It feels like we're finally part of this community." David nodded, feeling the warmth of her words resonate within him. "It does feel like a new beginning. I'm proud of what we've created." But amid the joy, David was acutely aware that this was just one step in a much larger journey. As the evening drew to a close, he couldn't shake the thought that there were still hurdles to overcome. The acceptance they had fought for felt fragile, and he wondered how long it would take for true understanding to take root. Later that night, after the kids had gone to bed, David and Lisa sat on the porch, watching the stars twinkle against the deep navy sky. "Do you think we'll ever be fully accepted?" David asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Lisa turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "Acceptance is a process. Some people will take longer to understand, but what matters is that we remain true to ourselves. Love can break down barriers over time."